Listen, there is something you have felt for a long time. A quiet ache beneath the noise. A question that arrives in the moments when the world finally stops demanding something from you. It appears in the pause before sleep, in the hollow after achievement, in the strange stillness that follows a victory you thought would change everything. And it whispers, why do you always feel the same, no matter how much you accomplish? You never say it out loud. You barely admit it to yourself, because it sounds ungrateful. It sounds dramatic. It sounds like the kind of thing only lost souls confess in the middle of the night. But still, it follows you, like a shadow that knows your name. You achieve one goal, and then another. You climb a hill and stare at the next. You reach the horizon, only to find that the horizon has taken a step back. You keep moving, because stopping feels dangerous. Stopping feels like you might hear something you're not ready for. But the ache remains. You tell yourself life is supposed to feel like this. You tell yourself everyone is tired, everyone is reaching, everyone is chasing something. But deep down, beneath all your justifications, something inside you knows. This isn't about ambition. This is about emptiness. Because no matter how much you gather, no matter how many moments you win, no matter how many milestones you cross, the feeling always comes back, like a tide that never forgets the shore. And sometimes, when the room is quiet enough, you dare to ask the question you've been avoiding. Why is the satisfaction so brief? Why does the joy evaporate? Why does achievement feel like a cup with a hole in the bottom? You wait for an answer. It never comes in words, but the silence feels heavier than any reply. You try to distract yourself. You try to outrun the truth, but at the end of every chase, you find yourself staring into the same mirror. Is this all there is? A soft unease settles beneath your ribs. A feeling that something essential is missing, not outside, but within. A sense that you've been living your life like a traveler who keeps changing destinations, hoping the next one will finally feel like home. And tonight, you're finally brave enough to ask, why does every finish line feel like another starting point? Why does every victory feel so strangely hollow? The question stands before you, unblinking, patient, waiting for you to look back. You grow up believing that satisfaction is a destination, a place you will one day arrive at, a moment when the breath in your chest finally loosens, when the world stops feeling like a race, when you can finally say, I made it. You imagine that moment vividly. You attach it to accomplishments, titles, numbers, outcomes. You see it in the light of future triumphs. You hear it in the applause you haven't received yet. You feel it in the shape of someone you hope will finally understand you. You tell yourself, once I get there, everything will make sense. And for a while, that belief keeps you alive. You build, you chase, you climb, you hunger, you sweat, you sacrifice. Not because the goal itself matters, though you pretend it does, but because you're convinced the feeling at the end will be different than the one you carry now. You think the new life will replace the old self, but the truth waits quietly, like a tide behind your thoughts. Because when you finally reach the thing you wanted, the job, the body, the milestone, the money, the recognition, there is a moment, a brief, intoxicating moment. A flash of light in the nervous system, a quickening of breath, a soft hum of triumph. And then it fades. It fades faster than you expected, faster than you're willing to admit. You thought the feeling would stay. You thought the joy would linger. You thought the new reality would reprogram you into someone whole. But instead, the feeling slips through your fingers. It dissolves like mist in a rising sun. It becomes memory faster than it ever was pleasure. You stand on the mountaintop, victorious. And before the sweat can even dry on your skin, something inside you whispers, what's next? Not in excitement, in fear. Because if the feeling is already gone, then the next pursuit becomes your lifeline. The next achievement becomes your oxygen. The next goal becomes your escape from the unsettling emptiness returning beneath your ribs. You start running again, not upward, forward. Blindly. You run because stopping would force you to confront something deeper than ambition. You run because movement feels safer than stillness. Because the silence terrifies you. Because if you stop chasing, you might have to face a truth you've avoided for years. You don't know what you're running from. You only know that the running keeps it away. The cycle tightens. Every achievement becomes a brief sip of water in an endless desert. Refreshing, but never enough. You taste fulfillment in moments, not seasons. In flashes, not eternities. In sparks, not flame. And you start to believe this is normal. You start to believe this is life. You start to believe this is just how humans are built. But listen closely. There is a deeper law beneath the surface. A quiet mechanism humming inside your mind. A psychological storm that looks like desire but feels like hunger. It is the cycle that reshapes every triumph into neutrality. The ancient rhythm that pulls joy back to baseline. The unseen gravity that drags every high into the same familiar flatness. You've lived through it so many times, you can predict it now. The anticipation rises. The reward arrives. The pleasure spikes. The spike fades. The baseline returns. The mind resets. And then you begin again. You call it ambition. But is it? You call it passion. But is it? You call it progress. But is it? Or is it merely the treadmill? Quiet, automatic, merciless, carrying you forward while you mistake motion for meaning? Because here is the truth hidden beneath your striving. You thought you wanted freedom. What you wanted was control. Control over the emptiness. Control over the restlessness. Control over the ache. And goals? Goals are the perfect disguise. They let you postpone the confrontation. They let you bury the silence. They let you believe you're chasing something, when you're really running from something. You decorate your treadmill with dreams. You paint the walls with vision boards. You surround yourself with reminders of the future you want. But the floor beneath you never moves. This is the cycle, the loop, the law. The psychology of desire wrapped in the illusion of progress. You achieve, you adapt, you forget, you crave again. Like a wave, rising, collapsing, rising, collapsing. Not because the ocean changes, but because the ocean must breathe. We must breathe. And in that breath, in that endless tide, we lose ourselves. We confuse the rhythm of survival for the meaning of living. You thought you were living, but you were only running. Running from the silence behind your achievements. Running from the stillness that terrifies you. Running from the truth that waits quietly in the space between triumphs. And the cycle continues. Unless you dare to look inward. Unless you dare to ask the question beneath the question. Unless you dare to turn around and face the thing you've spent your life outrunning. But that comes later. For now, you are still in the cycle. Still running. Still reaching. Still telling yourself that the next moment will save you. Still believing that fulfillment is a place. Still whispering, one more, just one more. But the treadmill hums beneath your feet in quiet defiance. And the horizon steps back once more. There is a moment, subtle, almost invisible, when desire shifts from hope to hunger. At first, you want something, because you believe it will add to your life. Make things brighter, smoother, more whole. But as the wanting intensifies, something begins to change. You stop wanting the thing itself. You start wanting the feeling you think it will unlock. This is the quiet pivot, the turning of the key. Desire becoming dependency. You don't notice it while it's happening. You rarely do, because the mind is clever. It disguises desperation as enthusiasm. It paints longing in beautiful colors. But beneath the paint, the truth remains. What you seek is not the achievement. What you seek is the relief from wanting. You think a goal will free you from desire. But every time you reach one, another desire rises to take its place. And so, the treadmill accelerates. You push harder, you run faster, you chase more fiercely. Not because the new goal is meaningful, but because the silence that follows achievement feels unbearable. You think you're chasing success. You're actually escaping stillness. And you feel it. That subtle tightening in the chest. That restlessness beneath the bones. That quiet desperation in the breath when you're close to achieving something. It feels like standing at the edge of a cliff, believing that on the other side of the jump there will be wings waiting for you. But when you leap, when you land where you once dreamed of standing, you discover the truth. The wings were never there, only the ground. And the ground is always the same. The scenery changes. Your success changes. Your circumstances change. But you, the one who is feeling, perceiving, experiencing, you remain. The baseline returns like a tide that cannot be negotiated with. Joy rises, then settles, excitement flares, then dissolves. Triumph arrives, then becomes memory. And slowly you begin to realize something that frightens you more than failure ever did. Happiness is not improved by achievement. It is reset by it. This is the part you never speak aloud. The part that feels like betrayal. Betrayal of your past self, your dreams, your hope. But it is there. A quiet confession hiding in the corners of your mind. Every time you achieve something, the joy is shorter than the journey. And so the mind adapts. It rewires. It protects itself. Not by giving you satisfaction, but by raising the baseline of desire. By expecting more. By craving bigger. By moving the finish line further from where you stand. You don't notice the shift at first. You just wake up one day wanting something you once thought was impossible. Not because it is meaningful, but because everything below it has lost its flavor. This is the invisible inflation of desire, the quiet expansion of expectation, the hunger that grows not because you're starving, but because your appetite has changed. You tell yourself you deserve more. You tell yourself you should aim higher. You tell yourself it's growth. But what if it's not? What if it's simply your nervous system raising the dosage? What if you're not growing at all? What if you're just increasing your tolerance? That's the part people never discuss, because it means acknowledging something uncomfortable. You can get everything you want and still feel nothing. Not because you are broken, not because your goals are wrong, but because the human mind is built to normalize everything it touches. Joy is just another stimulus. Pleasure is just another spike. Success is just another signal. And what spikes must fall. What rises must return. What excites must fade. This isn't failure, it's biology. This isn't pessimism, it's observation. Watch your own life and you'll see it. Remember the thing you wanted desperately 10 years ago. Remember how you thought your life would change. Remember how you imagined a permanent elevation of your inner world. Then remember how quickly it became ordinary. Not because it wasn't meaningful, but because your mind incorporated it into the baseline. The extraordinary becomes the everyday. The miracle becomes the mundane. The dream becomes the normal. And normal is invisible. Normal is quiet. Normal is taken for granted. It's not your fault. It's not a moral issue. It's not a sign of failure or spiritual immaturity. It is simply the cycle, the treadmill beneath your feet, the whisper beneath your joy, the force beneath your ambition, a force that turns novelty into repetition, brightness into background, triumph into routine, dream into memory. And so you continue to climb, not because the summit satisfies, but because the climb distracts you. Not because the next goal will fulfill you, but because it will give you a new horizon to chase. Not because the journey has meaning, but because the alternative, the stillness, feels unbearable. This is the hidden truth behind all striving. You thought you were seeking success, but success was just a disguise for seeking self. And yet, you never find yourself in the victories. You only find pieces, shadows, reflections, fragments of identity stitched together by accomplishments. But the core remains untouched, unfound, unnoticed, still waiting beneath all the running, still waiting beneath the noise, still waiting beneath the constant searching, still waiting in the silence you fear. And the cycle continues. It always continues, until you see it, until you truly see it. At some point quietly, without ceremony, the cycle stops feeling like ambition and starts feeling like exhaustion. Not physical exhaustion, not the kind sleep can fix. Something deeper, something older. A fatigue that seems woven into the bones themselves. It happens slowly, One day you wake with a heaviness you can't explain. Not sadness, not despair, just weight, as if the future has become too heavy to hold. Another day you accomplish something you once would have celebrated, and you feel nothing. Not joy, not pride, only a hollow neutrality, like tasting food that has lost all flavor. And slowly a realization forms. You're not chasing goals anymore. You're chasing the feeling goals used to give you. But the feeling never returns with the same intensity. Every new achievement becomes a weaker echo of the last. Every spike of joy becomes thinner, shorter, quieter. You tell yourself you're just tired, that you'll recover, that the next goal will be different. But deep down, a truth begins to whisper. You have adapted. You always adapt. You cannot unadapt. The mind is a relentless engineer. It optimizes your happiness into neutrality. It turns your once unimaginable dreams into background noise. And so you fear the silence even more. Because if joy fades, if satisfaction dissolves, if achievement becomes dust, then what remains? What's left when the high disappears? You would rather run than find out. And so the treadmill becomes not just a habit, but a refuge, a protection, a shield. The motion distracts you, the striving comforts you. The future rescues you from the emptiness of the present, but the future keeps slipping away. And you keep running. You run toward goals you secretly know won't change you. You chase milestones you already know will disappoint you. You set targets you know are too small to matter, until you reach them, and then they suddenly become too big to hold your meaning. The cycle is merciless. You imagine yourself as a climber, but really, you are a captive, a prisoner of your own nervous system, a hostage of dopamine, a worshipper of anticipation. Because anticipation is the last place the mind can hide the illusion of fulfillment. The wanting feels exciting. The imagining feels hopeful. The fantasy feels perfect. Achievement destroys the fantasy. Reality ends the illusion, and the mind begins searching for another dream. Not because the dream is beautiful, but because the illusion is necessary. That is the secret no one likes to admit. You don't crave achievement. You crave the fantasy of who you think you'll become after you achieve. You chase transformation, not trophies. You pursue identity, not success. You long to be someone different from the one who wakes up in your skin each morning. And for a moment, a brief, trembling moment, achievement seems to deliver that transformation. But only for a moment. Then the old self returns. The baseline reclaims you. The mirror shows the same face. The mind whispers the same doubts. The heart carries the same emptiness. Everything changes, but you remain. And that is the ache you cannot outrun. Because somewhere deep inside, beneath layers of striving and noise, you're waiting for something you cannot name. Waiting to feel whole. Waiting to feel enough. Waiting to feel real. Waiting to feel like your existence has a center, a foundation, a still point, a home. But goals cannot give you that. They can only distract you from noticing its absence. This is why the emptiness always returns. Not because the goals were wrong. Not because you are flawed. Not because life is unfair. The emptiness returns because the thing you are trying to fill is not a gap in your accomplishments, but a gap in your awareness. A gap no achievement can reach. You can climb as high as you want. You can gather everything the world tells you to gather. You can become exceptional in every measurable way. But if you climb without understanding what you are avoiding, the summit becomes just another place to run from. You will stand at the top and look outward, and outward, and outward, and you will not see freedom. You will see more mountains, more things to chase, more ways to escape, more tricks of the mind. The cycle does not break when you achieve more. The cycle breaks when you finally see it. And not just see it intellectually, not as a quote on a wall, not as a concept in a book, but see it in yourself, in your breath, in your thoughts, in your patterns, in the quiet space beneath your striving. To see the cycle is to feel the ground beneath the treadmill, to feel the stillness beneath the motion, to feel the truth beneath the hunger. And the truth is this: you thought you were alive because you were moving. But movement is not life. Movement is avoidance. And avoidance is endless. Until the moment you turn inward. Until the moment the running stops. Not because you reached the finish line, but because you realized there was never a finish line to begin with. Just a loop, a pattern, a habit of the human mind. The hedonic treadmill is not a prison, it is a mirror. And every time you run towards something, that mirror runs with you, reflecting the same emptiness, the same longing, the same restless hunger, not to punish you, but to reveal something essential, something quiet, something you've forgotten, something that can only be found when the running finally loses its power and the mirror stops chasing you. You have seen the cycle now, not as an idea, not as a theory, but as a lived truth. Something inside you has softened, something has loosened its grip. The world hasn't changed, but the way you look at it has begun to shift. And so the descent begins, not downward, not into darkness, but inward, into the quiet space beneath all your wanting. It starts with a pause, a simple pose, the kind you used to avoid, the kind that once felt like suffocation, the kind that made you reach for your phone, or set a new goal, or imagine a different life. But tonight, you don't reach for anything. You simply sit, you listen, you breathe, and the silence, the same silence you spent years escaping, begins to reveal its shape. You hear the faint hum of your own existence, the subtle vibration of being alive, the quiet pulse beneath your thoughts. At first it feels unfamiliar, empty, strange, as if you've stepped into a room you forgot you built. There is no applause here, no anticipation, no striving, just you and the moment. And for the first time, this moment feels enough, not thrilling, not euphoric, not transformative, simply enough. You never imagined that stillness could feel like this. Not an accomplishment, not a victory, not a reward, but a homecoming. Because beneath the constant motion, beneath the endless chasing, beneath the noise of your own ambitions, there was always a quiet place, a space untouched by achievement, untouched by desire, untouched by the treadmill. You were running past it all these years, rushing by the doorway of your own inner life. And now, in this pause, you finally turn toward it. You begin to notice things you've never had the stillness to see. The texture of your breath, the weight of your body in the chair, the soft hum of your thoughts passing through your mind, like clouds drifting across a dusk sky. You begin to sense something deeper than thought, deeper than identity, deeper than the story of who you are. An awareness, silent, steady, unmoved. It watches your desires rise and fall. It watches your goals appear and fade. It watches your emotions swell and calm. It watches your entire life unfold. The way the moon watches the tide, patient, unrushed, unafraid. This awareness is not trying to achieve anything. It's not trying to become anything. It's not trying to prove anything. It simply exists. And in its presence, you begin to understand a truth you've never allowed yourself to feel. You are not your striving. You are not your wanting. You are not the cycle. You are the one observing it. This realization doesn't arrive as a thought. It arrives as a subtle shift in the center of your chest, a soft settling, a gentle opening, as if some deep part of you is finally remembering itself. You begin to see the difference between the voice that runs and the space that listens, the noise of the mind and the quiet of awareness, the one who chases and the one who watches the chasing. It is the beginning of a new way of seeing, a new way of being, not through effort, not through effortlessness, through presence. The descent isn't scary, it isn't dark, it isn't lonely. It is a return to the part of you that was never lost, never hungry, never running. A part of you that has been waiting patiently for you to stop mistaking movement for meaning. The deeper you go, the quieter it becomes. Not the silence of emptiness, the silence of truth. The kind of silence that feels like the world is breathing with you. The kind of silence that feels like you've stepped inside your own soul. The kind of silence that feels like home. Stay here a moment. In this quiet, in this softness, in this unfamiliar stillness. Do not rush it. Do not reach for meaning. Do not try to turn it into an accomplishment. Let the silence breathe through you. Because this simple, unadorned awareness is the place you've been running from. It's strange, isn't it? How something so calm could have frightened you for so many years. How something so gentle could have felt so dangerous. But now, in this moment, you begin to feel why. In stillness, the illusions fall away. You see the naked truth of your mind. You see the patterns, not as failures, but as mechanisms. You see the wanting, not as destiny, but as habit. And for the first time, you see that the one who was running was only a fragment of you, a fragment made of thought, a fragment shaped by memory, a fragment driven by expectation and fear. A useful fragment, yes, but a small one, a temporary one. The awareness you feel now, this spacious, open presence, is much older. Older than your dreams, older than your failures, older than the identities you built to protect yourself. It has watched you strive, watched you climb, watched you grieve, watched you hope, and it never moved. It never panicked when you panicked. It never rushed when you rushed. It never judged when you judged. It simply waited for the moment you would stop running long enough to notice it. You look inward now, deeper than before, and you begin to sense that this awareness, this stillness, does not crave anything. It does not need goals. It does not need validation. It does not need achievement to feel whole. It is whole, and it always has been. Even when you felt broken, even when you felt lost, even when you felt empty after every victory. The emptiness wasn't a sign of your insufficiency. It was a sign that you were searching in the wrong direction. You were reaching outward for something that lives inward. You were chasing in the world what was waiting in awareness. You realize now that the goals you set were never really about the goals. They were signals, echoes, light posts pointing you back to this space. Every time fulfillment faded, it wasn't your failure. It wasn't a punishment. It wasn't proof that life is meaningless. It was an invitation. A gentle reminder, this is not where you will find yourself. And now, in this quiet descent, you finally understand. You close your eyes, not to escape the world, but to see it more honestly. You feel the breath moving in and out. You feel the body softening. You feel the mind settling like dust after a long storm. Thoughts still come, but they no longer drag you with them. They pass like birds crossing a twilight sky, momentary silhouettes, gone before you can reach. You see that the goal chaser inside you was never wrong. It was merely young, inexperienced, doing the best it could, with the illusion it inherited. And now, that illusion is dissolving. Not because you destroyed it, not because you conquered it, but because you outgrew it. You feel a shift behind the sternum, a soft expansion, as if your ribs have created more space for your existence. You feel the quiet like water settling in a basin. You feel yourself, the real you, the one untouched by success or failure, the one untouched by praise or judgment, the one untouched by the rise and fall of your own ambitions. A presence, a witness, a silent, unmoved awareness, as if the core of your being has always been sitting at the center of an empty cathedral, waiting for you to walk in. You sit now in that cathedral, listening, breathing, being. No goal can touch this. No achievement can strengthen it. No failure can weaken it. This is the part of you the treadmill could never reach. The part of you that does not run. The part of you that does not need saving. It is quiet, and it is enough. And in this moment, for the first time, you feel the truth. You were never broken. You were simply looking in the wrong direction. Not downward, not upward, just inward. And the deeper you go, the more the cycle loses its power. Not because you reject it, not because you fight it, but because you see it for what it is, a game the mind plays, a rhythm of biology, a temporary weather pattern of human existence. And you are the sky, calm, open, unmoved, and the sky does not chase the weather. It simply allows it to pass. There is a moment, so gentle you almost miss it, when the world within you shifts. Not dramatically, not like an epiphany, not like the cinematic revelations you grew up imagining. It is quieter than that, softer, like a candle being lit in a room you forgot was dark. It happens when the running has lost its urgency, when the goals have lost their glow, when the striving feels like an echo instead of a command. It happens when you stop believing that the next achievement will save you from the person you think you are. And suddenly, without fanfare, a realization emerges. There is nothing to escape. There is only something to see. You sit with that, unsure at first, curious, cautious, because seeing has always felt more dangerous than running. Running kept you busy. Running kept you numb. Running kept you pointed toward a horizon that would never arrive. But seeing brings you home. Home to the part of you that doesn't rise or fall with your accomplishments. Home to the awareness that doesn't speed up when you chase or collapse when you fail. Home to the stillness beneath all your wanting. And in that homecoming, something inside you unclenches. You begin to understand. You were never chasing success. You were escaping silence. You thought you were seeking freedom, but you were seeking control. Control over the ache, the uncertainty, the whisper of emptiness you never knew how to sit with. And yet, sitting here now, in this quiet moment, you realize the silence is not your enemy. It is your return. You feel a softness in your breath, a warmth in your chest, the sense that something inside you has stopped collapsing into the future and is finally resting in the present. Not because the present is perfect, but because it is real. It is here, and here is enough. You begin to notice something. The emptiness you feared, the emptiness you tried to fill with achievement, was never emptiness at all. It was spaciousness, a doorway, a clearing inside you, large enough to hold the entire sky. You mistook it for lack, because you were trying to fill it with things that were never meant to fit. But now you see it clearly. This space was not a wound, it was a window, a place where awareness could enter, where presence could breathe, where you could finally meet yourself, without the armor of accomplishment. You are no longer trying to become someone. You are becoming aware of the one who has always been here. And with this awareness, something inside you loosens further. You no longer need your goals to validate you. You no longer need your successes to define you. You no longer need your achievements to distract you. You can still pursue. You can still build. You can still dream. But now, you do it from stillness, instead of hunger, from clarity, instead of craving, from presence, instead of panic. You begin to feel the difference. The world no longer pulls you forward. You move toward it naturally. The future no longer threatens your worth. You meet it with open hands. The treadmill still exists, but it has lost its power. It is no longer the ground beneath your feet. It is simply another object in the room. Something you can step on or step off without losing yourself, because you are not running anymore. You are walking, breathing, observing, awake. You feel the truth now, not as words, but as a sensation. A fullness, a spaciousness, a quiet contentment that does not need to announce itself. It is enough. You are enough. Not because you achieved what you needed, but because you stopped trying to achieve who you already are. And for the first time, the world feels gentle. Your life feels spacious. The future feels open. The present feels alive. And the silence you feared, the silence you spent decades running from, becomes your refuge, your anchor, your home. You sit with it now, not as an enemy, but as a companion. And the silence speaks, not in sentences, not in answers, but in understanding. And somewhere deep within you, the final truth rises. Soft, simple, and deniable. When you stop seeking peace, it finds you. And in that moment, the treadmill finally stops. Not because you broke it, not because you outran it, but because you no longer needed it. You are free, not in triumph, not in victory, in stillness.